Prepare to encounter an intriguing mystery that stands at the very threshold of sacred history. Melchizedek, king of righteousness and king of peace, whose priesthood transcends the bounds of human origin, hierarchy, and mortality. As St. Paul proclaims in Hebrews 7:3. He is without father or mother, without genealogy, without beginning of days or end of life. Yet the record in Genesis 14:18-20 tells us that Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was priest of God Most High, and Abram gave him a tenth of everything. What follows is a seamless exploration, woven from the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church's 81 canon scriptures, its Synaxarion, the Book of the Ring, and ancient Ge'ez manuscripts of a priesthood ordained by heaven, foreshadowing Christ's eternal high priesthood and uniting creation's fall with its ultimate redemption. The Primordial Liturgy and Adam Tabot. Long before any stone temple stood, God chose a scion of Ham's line to serve as the eternal priestly guardian of humanity's first parent. According to Ethiopian tradition on Pagume 3, set aside to honor his ministry, Melchizedek, guided by angels, descended into Noah's Ark alongside Shem and retrieved Adam's skeletal remains. At the angels' leading, they traversed the desert to the very spot where the cross would one day stand. There, as Melchizedek approached, the earth itself opened before him. He laid Adam's bones within that cleft and, fashioning them into a living ark, arranged 12 monumental pillars, each symbolizing one of Israel's tribes, around the sacred remains. Surprisingly, incense curled heavenward in thick spirals, chalices of wine, ruddy as dawn's first blush, were poured. Loaves of wheat, milled from the first grain sown beneath Eden's east, were placed upon a stone altar. This primordial liturgy bound the memory of Eden's fall to the promise of ultimate restoration, whispering the Incarnation's mystery long before Bethlehem's stable. Early church fathers preserved this tradition as a powerful theological motif, though not as canonical history. Origen c. 184-253 AD, in his commentary on Matthew 2:7-33, observes, "The place of the skull is called Golgotha, because the skull of Adam was buried there." St. Jerome, c. 347-420 AD, in his commentary on Matthew 2:7-33, writes, "It is believed that Adam was buried here, and that the Lord, on the very spot where death entered the world, set up the cross as a standard of life." Epiphanius of Salamis, c. 310-403 AD, in his Panarion Book 46, defends the tradition against skeptics, affirming Adam's burial at Golgotha. St. Ambrose, c. 340-397 AD, alludes to the mystical significance of Christ's blood redeeming Adam beneath the cross, even if he stops short of insisting on its historicity. Cappadocian thought, via Basil and Gregory of Nyssa, further enriched the symbolism, seeing in the skull beneath the cross a visual proclamation of victory over death. This motif lives on in Orthodox iconography. Ancient and modern icons commonly depict a skull, or even a full skull and bones, beneath Christ's cross, labeled Adam, reminding the faithful that the crucifixion's ground became the very birthplace of redemption. In that primordial liturgy, earth, ark, pillars, offering, the whisper of the Incarnation grows loud, foreshadowing Christ's own words at the Last Supper. "This is my body, this is my blood." Matthew 26:26-27, Ministry of Melchizedek. For countless generations, Melchizedek remained concealed from all human eyes, living an austere existence sustained solely by angelic ministrations. According to Ethiopian sources, each dawn, heavenly messengers brought him fresh wheat and wine, his only sustenance, and clothed him in garments of the finest white linen, woven by angelic hands. He constructed neither home nor altar, took no wife, and refrained from cutting his hair or trimming his nails, embodying an ascetic purity that mirrors Isaiah's portrait of the suffering servant, Isaiah 53, and Enoch's mysterious translation into heaven without seeing death, Genesis 5:24. This radical detachment from worldly ties served a divine purpose. It prepared Melchizedek to stand as God's impartial mediator and reconciler. Blessing of Rebekah. Hidden until the days of Abraham, Melchizedek emerged only when family discord threatened the patriarch's household. Earlier, as Abraham's camp swelled in prosperity, rivalry between Sarah's and Hagar's offspring and the very sons of the promise threatened to fracture the covenant line. Tradition holds that Rebekah, heavy with twins destined to shape nations, journeyed to receive his blessing. There, Melchizedek, ordained directly by the Most High rather than by human right, pronounced God's sovereign decree. 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you shall be divided. The one shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. Genesis 2:5-23. In that moment, the hidden purposes of God unfolded. The election of Jacob over Esau, the reversal of human expectation, and the confirmation that Melchizedek's priesthood transcends earthly lineage to enact divine will. The Levitical contrast. The Levitical priesthood, established at Sinai, required a meticulous, multi-stage consecration. Moses washed Aaron and his sons in water, clothed them in linen vestments, anointed them with oil, and offered a series of animal sacrifices: sin offering, burnt offering, ordination sacrifice, pouring blood on the altar and on their right ears, thumbs, and big toes, Leviticus 8. Their garments included the tunic, sash, robe, ephod, breastpiece, and turban, each embroidered and symbolically inscribed with the names of Israel's tribes. Fasting, ritual purity, and continual burnt offerings characterized their daily service, Numbers 28-29. In astonishing contrast, Melchizedek's priesthood arrived without any human intermediary or formal rite. No Moses-led anointing, no sprinkling of sacrificial blood, no richly colored garments. His office derives directly from the Most High. David's prophecy captures this divine appointment. The Lord has sworn and will not change his mind. You are a priest forever, after the order of Melchizedek, Psalm 110:4. St. Paul reiterates its eternal character. He abides a priest forever, like the Son of God, Hebrews 7:17. Rather than offering animal blood, Melchizedek's sacrifice consisted solely of wheat and wine, elements brought by angels and presented on the living Adam Tabot. No earthly altar was required. His ministry points worshippers past external ceremony to the heart of faith, prefiguring the perfect sacrifice of Christ, who fulfills and transcends every ritual prescription. Victory at the Valley of Shav. As the 13th year of imposed tribute dawned, the 5 kings of Sodom and Gomorrah defied their obligations, igniting the clash at Shav, Genesis 14:12-13. Their lot was seized by the 4 Chalagon sovereigns, leaving Abraham no choice but to marshal his household, 318 stalwarts bound by loyalty and faith. With divine favor guiding every step, he pursued the captors, routed their forces, and rescued Lot along with all the spoil. Flush with triumph, Abraham pressed on to the Valley of Shav, where at first light his seasoned band decisively overcame the 4 coalition kings of Elam, Siddim, and surrounding realms, Genesis 14:14-16. In the aftermath of this human victory, a transcendent figure emerged, Melchizedek, king of Salem and priest of the Most High God, garbed not in ornate vestments, but in simple linen. In his hands were bread made from angel-sent wheat and a cup of freshly pressed wine, sacraments that prefigured a higher covenant. Ethiopian expositors richly illumine these chapters. Abraham embodies the Lord, Lot the faithful soul in peril, the 318 loyalists, the devoted scholars who guard truth, the Chalagon kings, the heretical foes, and the Sodomite monarchs, the believing remnant, restored through divine intervention. Together, these events weave an emblem of redemption and restoration that resonates through Abraham's own 318-year pilgrimage of faith. Encounter at the Jordan. Filled with joy, Abraham then implored, "Will you show me your son, or the day of his coming?" In a mind-blowing directive, the Lord replied, "I will not reveal the day itself, but cross the Jordan, and there you will meet Melchizedek." When Abraham obeyed, he beheld Melchizedek in transcendent glory. With a voice like thunderous hope, Melchizedek declared, "Fear not, the Lord who bade you cross has sent me with cherubic blessing and this cup of wine." He offered bread and wine, pronounced the blessing, and Abraham responded with the first recorded tithe. Prototype of the Eucharist. Stepping forward, Melchizedek blessed Abraham. "Blessed be Abram by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth." Genesis 14:19. Abraham answered in profound worship, and he gave him a tenth of all, Genesis 14:20. A moment that becomes a prototype for every Eucharistic celebration, an Old Testament shadow pointing forward to the fullness of the Eucharistic mystery in Christ. St. Paul unfolds this as theological revelation, and without controversy the lesser is blessed by the greater, Hebrews 7:7. Centuries later, Christ would immortalize this pattern at the Last Supper. "Take, eat, this is my body, Drink of it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant. Matthew 26-20. More astonishing still, he declared in John 6:53-56 that these very elements become his true body and blood. Unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood abides in me, and I in him. Ethiopian genealogy of Melchizedek. Ethiopian tradition provides a richly detailed genealogy that affirms Melchizedek's full humanity, while explaining Paul's remark about his lack of Levitical pedigree. It begins with Sedu, a Hamite monarch whose dominion stretched from Egypt into Nubia. Sedu founded a riverine fortress and trade hub, naming it Bethsaida, House of Salvation, to commemorate his deliverance from turmoil. His son Salem, whose name means peace, inherited both the throne and his father's vision, renaming the settlement Salem and transforming it into a center of worship for the Most High God. Salem fathered two sons, Melchi and Melchizedek, both raised in the austere sanctity of their father's court. Melchi, the elder, oversaw civic affairs, while Melchizedek was chosen by divine decree for priestly service. As Melchizedek's reputation for righteous judgment and peacemaking spread across Canaan, the city itself was rebaptized Jerusalem, the city of peace. This change echoed Isaiah's vision of universal harmony. They shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks, Isaiah 2:4, and aligned with the prophetic promise that Zion would become the center of worship for all nations, Isaiah 2. By preserving this non-Levitical lineage, from Sedu through Salem to Melchizedek, Ethiopian sources confirm his human roots without contradicting Paul's point that his priesthood stands apart from Levi's line. Instead, his heritage underscores a priesthood ordained directly by God, foreshadowing the eternal high priesthood of Christ, who alone fulfills every covenant promise. Although later interpreters and some early church fathers wondered whether Melchizedek might be a theophany, a pre-incarnate appearance of Christ, St. Paul dispels this notion by emphasizing his full humanity. See how great this man was, to whom Abraham the patriarch gave a tenth of the spoils? Hebrews 7:4. By calling him that man, Paul affirms that Melchizedek was indeed a flesh and blood human being. His description in Hebrews 7:3, without father or mother, without genealogy, without beginning of days or end of life, does not deny his human origin. Rather, it points to the fact that his priesthood is not derived from Levi's family line. In other words, no recorded genealogy signifies exemption from Levitical descent, not the literal absence of parents. Living tradition of Tabot. Just as Melchizedek provided Abraham with the golden basket of bread and the cup of wine at the Jordan, Ethiopian Christians continue to commemorate these tokens of covenantal life. On personal, familial, communal, and national feast days, they prepare the bread of the basket and the drink of the cup, invoking Tabot or Tebel Melchizedek, the blessing of Melchizedek. With deep reverence and profound gratitude, they share these elements as symbols of life's security and social unity, seeking both spiritual and physical blessings. This unbroken tradition affirms not only Melchizedek as their ancestral priest-king and physical heritage, but also their direct inheritance of the covenant's divine favor and the spiritual blessings bestowed through him. Patristic Parallels. Although some early fathers pondered whether Melchizedek was a theophany, St. Paul dispels this by emphasizing his full humanity. See how great this man was, to whom Abraham the patriarch gave a tenth of the spoils. Hebrews 7:4. His singular appearance, Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine, Genesis 14:18, and deliberate silence about his birth or death serve a theological purpose. His priestly office transcends ordinary chronology, pointing us to the eternal high priest, Jesus Christ. Ethiopian patristic writings deepen these connections. Abba Georgis calls Mary the altar of Melchizedek, because on her virgin flesh the Word became incarnate. Arxelos proclaims, "Peace be upon Melchizedek, image of the Word clothed in virgin flesh." Furthermore, Abba Georgis draws four striking parallels between Melchizedek and Christ. Melchizedek blessing Abraham, Christ blessing his disciples on the Mount of Olives, Luke 24:50-51. Abraham's tithe to Melchizedek, Magi's gifts to the Christ child, Matthew 2:11. Priest of God Most High, Psalm 110:4. Christ's eternal priesthood made perfect by suffering, Hebrews 5:9-10. Melchizedek's reign in Salem, Christ's reign from Zion, the city of the living God, Hebrews 12:22. Threefold covenantal tapestry, spanning from Ham's birth circa 3244 BC to Christ's incarnation. A continuous tapestry of worship unfolds across three covenants: the covenant of the heart, Jeremiah 3:133, the Mosaic covenant of law and sacrifice, and the new covenant of grace inaugurated by Christ's body and blood. Prophetic voices thunder across Ethiopia's highlands. From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my worshippers shall bring my offering, Zephaniah 3:10, affirming her central role in salvation history. Moreover, Ethiopian prophets further declare, "Are you not like the children of Ethiopia to me?" Amos 9:7, Philistine Tyre with Cush, this one was born there, Psalm 87:4. Divine liturgy fulfillment. Each divine liturgy is, in fact, a living reenactment of Melchizedek's ancient sacrifice. Bread transformed into Christ's true body, wine into his true blood, John 6:53-56. Inviting the faithful into the heavenly sanctuary where our eternal high priest intercedes. Melchizedek's reign as King of Peace breaks down every barrier, calling the Church to universal unity. What began as an ark of fallen humanity has become the pathway to eternal communion with God. Selim.